Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the comic book industry once again. So I highly recommend you guys go and check out my previous video that I did with Iron Oxide, talking about the huge, massive issues with the comic book industry. And in that video, we lay out a lot of the problems we've always had regarding the pricing of the books, how they've treated the characters throughout the comic book history for a lot of these heroes you guys all know and love, to the companies that own these characters, how they're treating them, and obviously with them hiring a lot of these like woke social identity politic activist people that have basically infested these companies to push their identity politics and propaganda and virtue signaling onto a lot of you guys in these comic books recently. Not saying all of them do that, but since a lot of it comes from the big two, they do absorb a lot of the conversation. So if the big two are putting out really bad comic books, then anyone that's putting out comic books that's not the big two is going to get drowned out in the conversation. And we go over all of that in the previous video that me and Iron Oxide did. I highly recommend you go and check it out before you watch this video, because I also said in that video, we're going to be doing more of these videos like that one, talking about the other issues in the comic book industry. Now, today's videos, we're going to be talking about Mr. Mark Waid, but I thought of no other person I should do this with than the guy who actually also does videos based around the comic book industry, and that is Mr. Professor Hayteen. And if you want to check out his YouTube channel, I will leave it linked in the description box below. Go and check him out. Awesome guy. Had him on many shows before. And yeah, let's get right into it, man. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Looking up some sales charts.
Yes. So this is the issue when it comes to a lot of people. I think we've talked about it before, not only just in our solo show we did on the Iron Man podcast, but also on the Saturday shows you normally come on. People get really lucky in their life, and luck could be the one thing that they've always got to the point where they've been able to get as far as they have come so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when talking with Mark Waid, a lot of people only know him through Kingdom Come, Tower of Babel, and him writing on like Daredevil and other like characters like the Flash. Right? He's actually written on prominent characters before. He's written on some big characters: Daredevil, Flash, Justice League, Batman, Superman, even Shazam. Now he has World's Finest that are doing very well for DC. Actually, I can't deny he is talented. I like his work. Actually, I like what he's doing now in terms of like his books. But this is kind of where you have to kind of separate the art from the artist, right? So yes, he does write very good stories for the characters. The issue here is the person writing it is an absolute moron. And the reason why I say he got lucky is because people forget, allegedly, the reason why he was even brought on to Kingdom Come was because DC at the time thought that Alex Ross wasn't able enough to finish the book by himself. So they brought on Mark Waid, whoever knows how long into the book's already, in production at the time's lifespan. So this guy is pretty much leveraged like one really good story to the career he's had, which is very much, up and down, right? Then another thing, this guy's had some of the worst word of mouth on him ever for a creator. Just look into the stories surrounding this guy, everyone. It is absolutely terrible. Remember the story where the fucking guy's wife is dead and he sends something to him saying, "Would your wife have liked this?" The guy's fucking wife is dead. Like, what the hell? Like, guys, he's a straight up piece of shit for the most part. But you can't deny he does have talent. So have you been following any of the recent news surrounding Mr. Lovely Mark Waid, actually?
Well, the last I heard, he was basically saying he'd rather see the industry burn down than work with anybody on the,
alt-right.
Alt-right, which basically means for
Yeah.
people like him, anybody that's just, slightly right of Mao Zedong. So that's weird.
You know what's also
The thing is,
crazy,
he's
dude?
not the first completely, absolutely insane writer out there. I mean,
Yeah. Mhm.
think of Grant Morrison had a few odd
That guy's
situations.
insane. Donny Cates is insane, right? Yeah, it's true.
I mean, the actually, well-adjusted writers are probably more rare than the ones that are on the spectrum in some way. Let's say that way, okay? But then you go, and most of these people don't go and spout up things like that, and they don't go, after other people or anything like that. So that's where it's a little bit different with Mark Waid, especially since he is also a major figure in the industry, let's say, because he is prominent. I mean, he says something, people will know he said it,
Right.
and people will realize that he's been saying it.
You know what's also crazy, dude, is these people have basically been telling all of us for the longest time this is what they really stand for, because you could tell the people in the industry believe what this guy is saying so hard because they know the industry is on fire. I mean, dude, let's be honest here. It's really bad. Like, we're going to also come.
No, it is terrible.
It's
terrible. Not just really
I
bad.
recommend people go and watch Mark Miller's video he did with those industry retailers, right? And these people, like, because obviously, dude, we're the butt fuck nobodies, right? We're just the consumers, right? They're the ones actually selling the product, right? They're selling the product and they're saying it's bad. Then you have people like Heidi McDonald, Gail Simone, Kelly Sue DeConnick, this fucking loser, freaking Donnie Cates, all these literal retards, actual stupid people coming on and being like, no, it's not bad. It's not that bad.
Gail Simone actually, she straddles the line right now. I think she still has too many friends in the industry and too many people in that Whisper network. So when she actually, looks at what Mark Millar says, Mark Millar actually says something and she replies with, yeah, you're probably right. Then you probably have a Kelly Sue DeConnick in the back saying, what are you doing, girl?
She did it with the Captain Marvel post, remember? Gail Simone said she liked the original Cockrum design. Everyone loves that design. That's an iconic design. She was like, it doesn't really work for a modern version of Carol. It's like, she can't have her own opinion? What? On social, that's crazy, man.
No, that's basically it with Gail Simone. I think she is not a terrible person, but right now, since she used the Whisper network and she used that network,
but I heard that's a myth. Remember, I heard that's a myth.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
That's the thing.
Rich Johnson.
There's different levels probably to it, and I'm pretty sure there's a network in the back there with the likes of Waid and the likes of Gail Simone and the likes of Kelly Sue DeConnick and Ether and
Heather Antos is throwing Rich Johnson into that. He's a straight up piece of shit.
Those kinds of people. I mean, they
Kyle
help
Higgins
each other.
Garbage.
They help each other get to where they are. So now, if one steps out of line, the rest of them might fall. So they can't have that happen. And that's probably what we're seeing with Gail Simone. And that might very well be why Mark Waid is going that far off. Because he needs the industry to stay where it is to keep his job. Because if proper editors come back into the business,
if Jim Lee got his balls,
if Jim Lee found his balls somewhere in the DC building, I mean, maybe if David Zaslav said like, yeah, I'll pay you a transplant of balls, maybe we'd get somewhere.
I will also say this too, which is like, we know David Zaslav is really gearing for Warner Brothers to eventually become profitable and make money. What's to stopping David Zaslav or his underlings, Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abbey, from coming in there and being like, hey guys, these books ain't selling. All y'all need to get the fuck out. People forget, David Zaslav literally canceled a movie that was pretty much finished, actually.
More than one, actually.
Yeah, he did it with the Scooby-Doo movie. He did it with the new Looney Tunes movie with the Coyote and the Roadrunner. This guy, if he thinks it's not going to make money for you, he's getting rid of it. He did it with
not just that. He's also doing the other bit, which is we're going to license it if need be.
They licensed the Batman animated series Cape Crusader to Amazon, which we still haven't seen yet. But you know what I'm saying?
That's what Yellow Flash and a few others have been talking about, that DC might actually close doors and move to a licensing model. And that could explain a lot of what we're seeing right now in the industry. And that's
Mhm.
me speculating here, but remember that a whole bunch of people just jetted out of Marvel and DC to Image to create a new studio, right?
It's
A
true.
bunch of big ads. You've got Millar, who moved from Image to Dark Horse. He's basically going to be bankrolling Dark Horse going forward with his stuff.
Essentially, he's their biggest draw at this point.
Well, he's
Essentially,
their
right?
only draw. It's that and Berserk. You know,
True.
manga
Mhm.
and Mark Millar will be what Dark Horse will be known for.
Dude, I don't know if you watch. I don't know if you read the Power Ranger comic books, but even Boom Studios, you know how they're doing that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book, what's
Mhm.
written by Amy Jo Johnson. She's going to be called. It's calling it The Return. They don't even believe that is enough to get people's interest because they're crowdfunding it. Or maybe Amy Jo Johnson's going, I don't know if we can sell these floppies enough to make enough money. They're Boom Studios, which is
Boom
like
Studio's been doing a
it's
lot of
crowdfunding.
crowdfunding for their
Yeah,
big project
they did it for Keanu Reeves,
because
like you
they
mentioned,
don't know
Berserk.
I'm pretty sure you're right there. They don't know if it's going to make money. So if
That's the
they can
thing
get
now.
people to prepay
Yeah.
for it,
That's
it's
guaranteed.
fine.
It's guaranteed. You obviously have the Kickstarter. You have the Kickstarter fees or whatever, but at least you'll be making more potentially than giving it
I
out
mean, I
to
don't
someone
understand why they
else.
go through Kickstarter
I don't know either, but
because I
they
mean,
probably have a good
Massive when they
relationship.
did the Sean Gordon Murphy Zorro, I understand. Massive
True.
is not a massive studio despite their name. But I mean, Boom probably could do an Eric July and have their own website to do it.
That's true. Yeah, I look at all the stuff going on with the industry now, and it's like, guys, Boom and like Image are kind of like your fourth major title publisher right now, or like big three or whatever, how you look at those two. And Boom Studios is going with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as popular as that is, still with people. They're like, you know what? We gotta crowdfund this because we're not making money off this stuff, even off
I mean,
Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's crazy.
Transformers and GI Joe going to Image is a huge thing as well.
Right, because
IDW
IDW,
losing those two licenses probably. I mean,
it's true. Mm-hmm.
they're 2 feet in the grave at this point, not just one.
Dude,
But
you
I
know
mean,
what's keeping IDW alive right now? Sonic
Sonic.
and The Last Ronin. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, Last Ronin, I'm looking at the numbers here. Number 2 and 3 in November for the hardcover graphic novel sales. I mean, that's the only thing keeping them alive. There's nothing else that's keeping IDW alive. We've been seeing those terrible panels from the Star Trek books
So one yesterday with the little kid saying goodbye, space fascists. Like, oh
when
my
she's a
God.
fascist herself
Mhm.
since she's an Andorian.
All right. So before we get to covering Mark Waid, I want to ask you, just like I did with Iron Oxide, what would be your most recent biggest issue with the comic book industry? If you could just point to at least just the one that's always gnawing at your head.
Shitty editing. That's weird, but that's what it is because I'm just got done with the City Boy review series. The 6 books from that series, I've done reviewing them. There is not one serious action scene in 6 books. That's impossible in comic. You can't do that unless you're doing Archie. Like, what the fuck? And that's a recurring thing. I mean, if I looked at the Doom Patrol books I reviewed recently as well, in the last 2 books were action packed, but the rest of it was boring as shit. The editors are not putting their pants on and telling people, A, that's not going to sell, or B, well, this is simply shit. That's the people we need to blame more because the writers are idiots. We've already discussed that, right? So the writers are idiots. They will write whatever they want to write. But if you've got an editor saying, no, okay, that's not very good, go back, rewrite it.
There's no
You're
one that
gonna
does
get
that now.
somewhere.
There's no one that does that now because you'll be labeled an instaphobe or a bigot or you hate women or some fucking bullshit like
I can't
that.
remember which one did it recently, and he got labeled all sorts of things until he popped the recording out where because he recorded the conversation or something, and it was like, no, this is not very good. And then he got accused of all those things, and the recording was like, yeah,
you know what's my biggest problem with the industry currently right now is you can acknowledge the problems, but you have to talk in vague generalities because if you talk in the actual specifics, you're labeled a instaphobe, woman hating, bigot, fascist, Hitler supporter, Nazi sympathizer.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point of even discussing problems, dude, if you can't even go into specifics? The reason why people can fix problems in their business is because they are able to dive into specifics. We'll just use an example here. The reason why McDonald's can figure out why an item doesn't sell too much, you'd have to be able to have conversations with each other to understand why doesn't it sell. Do we need to just get rid of the item? Do we need to make it a bit more better in whatever we need to do? If you talk in vague generalities,
fish is selling?
Well, it could sell better than it probably was originally because they made it a bit better.
They don't have it in most places anymore. There's just a few specific, like the big McDonald's that still have it. And it'll sell well during Lent and those different Christian holidays.
You see what I'm saying? Like with the industry, you can't fix problems unless you dive into specifics, but you can't. I gotta talk in vague generalities. What the fuck? And then people are saying, just go to, you have these creators out there that be like, go to manga. I don't know if you've been living on a rock, a lot of you guys. They already have. There is no, I'm going to manga. People have already been doing that. People would I think there is a world where people would love to support manga because anime is great. I love anime. I've been reading manga since I was a little boy. Love mangas. But people also want to support their own home heroes too. I think there's a market for both to compete. But there shouldn't be this massive overlap between the two. That's ridiculous. With Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Superman, X-Men, all these legendary characters like Daredevil, Blade. There's no way there should be this much of an overlap between them, man. There's no way. But it's
they should be selling way better than they are. And yes, part of it is how the industry is managing it. Part of it is the poor editing. Part of it is that there's a million things. That's where it's being killed. It's the death by 1,000 cut, right?
Right.
I mean, if it was just the story that was bad, but the art was still, beyond top notch, like in the early 90s and the first image revolution, people wouldn't care. I mean, I read those original Wildcat books from the 90s, and I'm like, yeah, the story's terrible, but goddamn, the art is great.
Well, let's jump into talking about Mark Waid, who's the biggest crybaby I've probably ever seen. So this is a great article done by Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool, by Rich Johnson. Rich Johnson is literally just fucking fungus that grows off of like the backs of gorillas from Animal Planet or some shit. So it says right here, comic writer Mark Waid accuses Mark Miller of attacking Gail Simone. Now, I want to put into context here. He never talked about Gail at all. He's actually been very nice to Gail Simone, more nicer than other people have been nice to her. Most people shit talk Gail Simone a lot. Mark Miller did not. This guy named Kyle Higgins put together 3 out of context screenshots based on what Mark Miller had said, but they're not in the same threads. They were completely different, isolated incidences from each other. And he bundled them together to talk shit about Mark Miller in a way that's presented in such a disingenuous way to the point where Mark Waid thought he was talking about Gail Simone. Even though Mark Waid had nothing to do with this, he inserted himself into this. No one's talking about this guy. He just inserted himself in something that he didn't even know the full context of. Because Mark Miller talked about a potential book that was coming out. A lot of people thought he was talking about Gail Simone with some sort of like Whisper Network book. Turns out he wasn't talking about her at all. Guys, why would Mark Miller, given how successful he is, need to care about whatever the fuck Gail Simone is going to do? Gail Simone.
I mean, unless he wants to. No, he doesn't need to hire anyone. He doesn't need to hire her because he doesn't hire other writers. He writes all his stuff.
Yeah.
But the only people Mark Millar cares about are the other artists because he writes his stuff. So if you're an artist, don't get on his bad side because you could get a contract with Miller World.
Now,
Gail Simone doesn't care about her at all. She's competition, but
I know people have read this article before. I know people have seen the one from Bounty Comics and Bleeding Fool, but we're just going to go over mostly just the Mark Waid stuff. But I wanted to make sure I put that out there that Kyle Higgins started this. He's a retarded idiot. If you just look at out of context screenshots and you're not attaching them to the right thread on Twitter, you put that out there for disingenuous information for people, literal NPCs to look at, to like just eat it up without even looking into it, because we know these people don't look into their information that they're told. They just kind of believe whatever. These are the same people that watch MSNBC, right? You're trash. Go fuck yourself. Mark Waid, he thought you could just try to put some lawsuit on Mark Miller for what? There is no one that was named at all. He didn't name Gail Simone. Guys, Mark Miller is filthy rich. Okay, who gives a fuck what Gale or Killer Sudaconic is doing by his standards, right? What the hell? I just don't get it. So he had a tweet right here saying, the more I think about this, the angrier I get at Mark Waid. Mark doesn't give a fuck about you. First off, I doubt this book will ever be published. If Gale or Kelly Sue DeConnick wanted to justifiably sue to stop it, their GoFundMe would cancel the national debt. No, it wouldn't. People don't even know who the fuck they are, you dumb idiot. Secondly, by publisher, I assume she means some Comicsgate dudes, or else she'd give a name.
Okay, I'm going to go here and say it. It's going to be the same as the Max Visaggio or Brian, as we like to call him. GoFundMe. Basically, it would be like, yeah, you have to post that you donated to the GoFundMe with your actual name, or you're canceled out of X, Y, and Z. Like Mags, Brian tried to do.
Right. And even though these dumb industry bootlickers, as I like to call them, industry just shill bootlickers, even though Mark Millar wasn't talking about Gale's book in the way that people thought he was, oddly, a lot of these people were so hard on for the fact that there was not a Whisper network. They were like, there's no Whisper network, it's not a thing. And it's like, no one ever claimed it was. You did. He wasn't talking about her. Like, I just don't get.
Everybody
if it doesn't
knows.
exist, why were they raging out this hard about it?
Everybody knows the Whisper Network exists. It's not a question. I mean,
the
more they deny it, the more we know about it.
It doesn't even have to be a network, dude. It could literally just be like me and you messaging. That could literally be considered a Whisper network.
Exactly. And like I said, it might not be a Whisper Network group on Facebook or whatever, but it's that group of people in the back of DC and Marvel that keep getting jobs because they know someone who knows someone who knows someone. That's Mark Waid. That is literally the definition of a Mark Waid. He gets jobs because he knows people. Then again, he is talented. We've said it.
Right.
His current Shazam run is entertaining. It contains bullshit, and yeah. The bits that are good are really good. The bits that are bad are not bad enough for me to stop reading it.
Just like with Mark Waid in the past with Kingdom Come, carried by Alex Ross's art, Dan Mora, who does the art for those books, is phenomenal. I will give him that. He's really talented himself. So this is what Mark Waid, we're just going to go over the Mark Waid Facebook post he said. So this is the first one. And like a falling star rocketing across the sky, another former comic superstar whose heat is fading chooses to cry for attention by blaming the industry, his peers, and the audience rather than taking stock of his own professional progress, admitting that we are often the authors of our own fate and finding the courage to reinvent himself and stay relevant. It's really not that hard.
What I want to know is, who is he talking about? Because he's not talking about Mark Millar. No, you can't be talking about Mark Millar with this definition.
The authors Mark of Millar, our own fate. What? Oh my God!
On his own, is worth more than Marvel and DC at this point.
Oh God!
I mean, just in projects that he's got lined up, and the stuff that's going to come out at Netflix. He's more successful than Marvel and DC at the moment.
Mark Millar literally got the deal of a lifetime. Also, when he said that thing there of, the authors of our own fate. Yeah, Mark Millar made a great decision with teaming up with Netflix. He was the author of his own fate. Like, what?
He hasn't. Mark Millar found the golden nugget. Well, not in a nugget. He found a gold vein and just started digging. Yeah, I mean, he's like, here's a 5-ton piece of gold. I'll take it. It's right there. I mean, is there another creator that has that kind of deal? No. I mean, you're going to have the people saying, oh, yeah, Zack Snyder has a deal with Netflix. It's nowhere comparable to what Mark Millar has.
Yeah,
Mark Millar literally is like, I make a 6-book series. That 6-book series can become a show on Netflix. That's what each of his 6-book series are. They're pitches for Netflix as well as comic books. And it works.
And Mark
I mean,
Waid said
there's
Waid
some
said
of the
this-
stuff that I don't like. Okay, I'm not
Right.
the biggest fan of Kick-Ass.
Mhm.
It was a cool movie, but the comic, I didn't like the comic. I actually liked the movie more. I'm weird for that. But yeah, Kingsman's cool, but it's not fully my thing. I'm kind of not too happy that Jupiter's Legacy didn't get continued at Netflix, but it probably cost way too much on Netflix.
No, I think I don't know how much involvement Mark Miller actually had with the show, but I thought the show was pretty bad for the most part.
Okay. Well, the comic is great. So
I actually own them. You're right. My
I
stars
pretty
not
much
gonna
own everything that I can from Miller at this point.
Mark Waid, he had another paragraph continually saying, "My star is not going to burn forever." No, it almost never burns in general, for being honest here. Either. No one does. And accepting that fact gracefully is a sign of emotional maturity. But if I ever become that guy, every single one of you has permission to slap me upside the head and force me to reread the above paragraph as many times as it takes to sink in. Mark,
where does he
Waid,
live?
You're talking about yourself.
Where? Oh no, I'm not sure if my passport's still good. I think I need to renew my passport. You'll have to drive to Mark Waid and slap him upside the head for me.
Oh, God.
Sorry, man.
So then there became this big thing where classic Marvel era started giving Mark Waid a whole bunch of examples because he was talking about like there's like nothing of the idea of wokeness in comic books or identity politics or propaganda. Then he kept talking about all these characters where that doesn't exist from. And he said there's not self-inserts, okay? So the classic Marvel era pointed out a bunch of them. And Mark Waid, like the retard that he is, dismissed all of them as if like they didn't exist. I hate when people do this. They ask, give me examples. I give you 5. Not good enough. Then what are we talking for? What?
It's because they don't want you to talk at this point, and Mark Waid doesn't want to have a discussion. Like Mark Millar asked for discussions. Eric July asked for discussions, actually.
Yeah.
And let's face it, Eric July is probably more successful than most comic book writers right now, and probably more successful than IDW. With 2 books coming out this year, he's more successful than an entire company. So imagine that.
I don't disagree with that at all, actually. Yeah, that's true. I fully agree,
But
man.
look at it this way. He doesn't want to talk. What he wants is to state what he said, and this is now the truth, and you have to follow it as gospel, because that's what he's used to doing. Because of that whisper network or whatever that's working in the back, that's how it used to work. And that's how it worked for about 20 years, let's face it. And it's most of the time Wade's been in the industry.
He's
and
just
at
drinking
the top
Kool-Aid,
of the
dude.
industry, let's say.
That's why I say he's drinking Kool-Aid, is because he earlier on in this Facebook that you guys can go and see on Facebook, still there, he's talking about all these classic hits from Marvel in the 2020s. There is no book from Marvel or DC equivalent to how it's hit back then versus now, okay? More people know about Tower of freaking Babel and Kingdom Come and World's Finest from back then compared to any story they have now. The only time people really talk about how bad Marvel and DC stuff is because an event would have to be so bad on the levels of like Gotham War to the point where you talk about it because it's that bad.
Look,
all right, and that's
DC's Beast World.
Put here. Yeah.
DC's Beast World just started. It's their big event for November, December, January. Have you heard about it?
I've seen panels of it. I was just not. I read the synopsis. I was not interested. Not at all.
The thing is, the main books are good. Everything else is crap. But the main books are good because I like the Titans. And they've got decent writers on it. So,
like, you're looking at the stuff that classic Marvel era put up. Days of Future Past. Everyone knows what that is. Secret Invasion. Everyone knows what that is. The Hobgoblin Saga. We had that big scandal of like who was Hobgoblin. I know that story. I really like the transition of all that. Secret Wars. Frank Miller, Daredevil. Year One Batman. There's so many classics from the past. Even if you don't like them in your own personal taste, or anyone's watching, you know what that story is because people have talked about them over and over and over and over again. What are people talking about right now from Marvel and DC?
Nothing.
I mean, people say Shazam is good. People say Green Lantern is fun. It's about the only things I really hear. I do the Green Lantern story right with Hal Jordan is fun. I like it.
Titans are fun. And yeah, they're fun, but I don't even review them.
Justice
Think
League
about
versus Godzilla and Kong. People said that's entertaining them. Okay.
I only have got issue 1 of that, and it was good. Yeah. The
It's
rest
like,
are in the old box somewhere in Toronto, so I need to get that shipped to me.
so there's literally nothing on the level from now happening on the same level as it was back then. And this guy is so dumb. Like, and then you have people sucking off his balls like Tom Taylor, Gail Simone. They're like, oh, thank you, Mark, for your advice. Thank you. 2 literal unsuccessful hacks talking to each other. Couldn't be more cringe. Then here comes the big one that everyone's been talking about, and we'll go over it right now. So Mr. Stephen McGee said, I love your work, Mark, but seems anybody who tries to highlight the issues that the industry is facing either gets piled on, or in this case, his star is fading and looking for attention. Mark said he hasn't relied on income from comics for a long time. Everyone, that's true. He hasn't, honestly. See, rather than this tit for tat that we are seeing throughout the fandom, maybe people should actually get together and try to fix what's wrong. That's a very reasonable adult thing to do in any portion of your life. Something's going wrong, you try to talk about it, see what you can fix. I am by no means an expert, only a consumer, but all this doesn't seem to be helping matters. Then here comes the big giant Mark Waid's the most retarded idiot you probably can never even think of. Mark Waid says, I think a lot of us would just rather see the industry burn down than get together with the alt-right. I know I would. Sorry. No, and I know he later on in a follow-up comment said he tried to backtrack out of that. No. That's what he said right there. He literally
That's
said,
the mask off moment.
Yeah.
That's the mask off moment.
I don't know if I can find that comment in this video specifically, but you guys can find it. He put it on his own Facebook page. He basically said, oh, I wasn't saying it like that. If you thought that's what I was saying, you're the problem. Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
my brain.
It's never Mark Waid's fault. But, I mean, here it's truly that mask off moment where it's like, if you're not with us, you're against us.
If you're Jim Lee and you see that, you go, dude, what the fuck? You're fired. I don't give a fuck well, you're Shazamming World's Finest books. Get the fuck out. But Jim Lee doesn't do that because he has no balls.
Exactly.
You know what?
He needs a
Jim Lee
transplant.
actually believes that. People from DC actually believe that. That's why they haven't condemned him.
Well, that's because everybody at middle management thinks that. The problem's not upper management, because upper management doesn't give a fuck. Upper management, they like to see dollar signs. That's all they care about. And if the dollar signs completely stop, which is pretty much what comics is right now, upper management will start cutting. The middle management's the problem. It's your Jim Lee editor-in-chief and all the editors under him and your line directors and your art direction team and all those people who enable people like Mark Waid and that old Whisper network around them to be able to say things like that. One of the problem is, like, I'd rather see the industry burn. What will you do when the industry burn, Mark?
Oh,
Mark Millar doesn't give a fuck because he's still going to have his job.
Mark Millar is the industry.
Yeah, he is. Look, the industry right now is Mark Millar, Eric July, and Walking Dead. Maybe.
I know you don't like. Well, would you consider EVS part of the industry in an indie sphere kind of thing?
He doesn't produce enough. If he was releasing a book every 3 months, yes.
Okay.
Because he would have that presence. But right now, he releases a book every 3 years when we're lucky.
So, do you know why I think he said that? It's because these guys always hear rumors a little bit faster than we do. So This is a hindsight 2020 moment, guys. So today, it was revealed that Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount have had talks to merge. I don't know how that's going to affect the comic book side of things, but that might be the reason why he's gone insane. It's because he's realizing, bro, the jig is up at this point. I'm not saying the comic division will be affected if Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery do merge. I'm not saying that, but it's a big possibility if these guys. Remember, people have to know David Zaslav wants to see money, like you said, money. If you do not produce profit for me, you can get the fuck out. That's how it works for him.
But think about it here. If Mark Waid wasn't invited by Jeff Johns to join his new studio, what does that say? I mean, Jeff Johns like, okay, I'm going to grab all the top talent at Marvel and DC and start my own studio at Image. he doesn't pick Mark Waid. He doesn't pick Tom King.
Yeah, it's true. Jeff Johns, the legendary guy on JSA, Flash, Green Lantern, all that stuff. Guys, he's gone. He's
gone. He's at Image doing his own thing now.
Right? Mm-hmm. Where he can probably make more money than being at the big two. Mm-hmm.
Imagine if, we'll go on a completely tangent here, David Zaslav wants to make money. Hey, Jeff, you're at Image now, right? How about $50K? And you can write 12 issues of Green Lantern for Image. All right. Will people buy a Jeff Johns Green Lantern? If Jeff Johns turns around and gets EVS to draw it?
Yep.
Fuck, you're gonna have people buying it.
Those and everything they have the name value alone to sell it off. Like you can support David Zaslav walks from, hey man, $50K. I'll give you a 12-issue Green Lantern new series. You can do it with Hal Jordan, your favorite.
You do
Green
whatever
Lantern.
you fuck you want, and you don't have any other characters. You've got Green Lantern and Green Lantern stuff only. They jump on it, and after those 12 issues, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. You did a pretty good job. Do you want Warner Brothers to make an animated series of your 12 books? And then you start making money that way. DC can make a shitload of cash doing that.
Another thing to bring up is, remember, guys, this all started outside of the Kyle Higgins bullshit that he tried to put Mark Miller in, because Glenn O'Leary came out and highlighted an issue that we all talked about for many years. We all know about, discussed in length. He just mentioned, stop making self-insert shit comic books retailers can't sell. That's all he said. And Mark Miller did the worst thing in the planet. Guess what Mark Miller did, everybody? He went like an adult and went, I want to talk to this guy and understand where he's coming from. Other people went, oh my God, Mark Miller's Comicsgate. Like, what the fuck? What the actual fuck is going on with half of you? Your brains, fix them. Please fix your brains, please.
It's insane. It is simply insane, but that's because the industry is broken at a core level here. It's not just broken a little bit, or you know, you've got a few people like Mark Waid and maybe a Kelly Sue DeConnick. No, it's everyone. And it goes from top to bottom. You were saying that we're just consumers, but you've got a ton of consumers who buy those 10 variant covers in order to speculate that, oh, maybe this book will be worth twice the price in 10 years. This is part of what's killing the industry. DC, Marvel, Image at some level, even the small publishers as well, they're selling to a market that doesn't exist. They're selling to 12 guys in their basements when they should be selling to 15,000 guys in every town across the US and Canada and Mexico and Europe and Japan. They're selling that 1 in 50 variant cover. That's what's worth money, so people are going to buy it to try to speculate on it, while you're going to have 50 issues of your book rotting in a shelf somewhere. The retailer's losing money. You're losing money. The consumers is losing money because they can't get what they want.
Multiple retailers are saying Marvel and DC books don't sell. The only thing that I've heard consistently is people literally buy the books for the covers. They don't even read the book itself. They're just buying it because the cover art looks cool.
That's the collectors that are that still exist. Yes, but the reader, he's buying a trade paperback. I mean, I'm the weird one around here in Quebec. Everybody just buys the trade paperbacks. Nobody buys the floppies. You just wait till the trade comes out and you buy the trade. My best friend, he's collecting Batman.
Right.
Has the trade paperbacks. He doesn't give a shit about the floppies.
You know, that's what people have. That's what I've been also telling people too. Maybe the industry needs to move into a direction where I'm not saying cancel every single floppy unless it's a really popular character. Why not move to a point where it's like you just do a trade paperback edition of these characters, get 3 issues in one, trade paperback, print that in mass, and then sell it that way. Why do we need all this oversaturation of books constantly with all these characters?
Because they need to sell those variant covers in order to actually recoup what they're doing. That's the only thing that's making them the money. The thing is, their market plan is flawed from the start because of that. I mean, do like they do in Japan or they do in Europe. You pull out a book, you call it Detective Comic, and in your Detective Comic, you've got one Batman, one Green Lantern, and one, I don't know, Green Arrow. Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Batman. It's a big floppy. You sell it for $6-7, sure. And every 6 months, you come out with a trade paperback for all the stories of one of those 3 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Do it like manga. Do like at European comics. Do it that way. And the people who want their monthly stories will buy those $7-8 books.
This is
the people who just want to read, they'll wait for the trade.
And this is the other problem that Mark Waid mentioned here. And he says, and I call bullshit on anyone who tries to highlight the issues gets piled on. Oh my God, that's so, this dude's just out of touch. I think it's far more accurate to say anyone who wants to blame everything on SJWs gets piled on, or anyone who wants to complain that their favorite characters are being written as political mouthpieces but can't provide any examples of this is being piled on. Mark Waid, you are retarded. He literally gave you about 20 examples right there, and you ignored them. You're stupid. You're actually just stupid. That's it. So then later on, he started, and yeah, that's the big part that he's talking about right there. And the other thing that he mentioned later on was maybe some of these CG guys, maybe they make some good points, but it's like, okay, so he just said if he agrees with, he'd rather see the industry burn than get together with the alt-right. But in another Facebook post, you guys can go find it if you want to, he mentioned that the alt-right loudmouths or the Comicsgate dudes do make some good points. What level of logic are we dealing with here? That doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense from this moron. I just don't get it. Like,
it's a creative thing. The thing is, we're dealing with a creative that never had to deal with having to market his own thing, to have to sell his own thing. I mean, the people like Millar, they had to market their own thing. They had to sell their own thing. So they have more of an idea. Most of the people on crowdfunding probably have a better idea of how the industry is going,
right,
and how the industry is than a Millar, than a Waid, or a Gail
Wade's
Simone.
not selling his own books. Like, he probably doesn't even know how I could imagine this man can barely type a coherent sentence. I imagine this guy doesn't even know how business is functioning.
No, I mean, he's able to write a script. That's about it. And writing a script for a comic book, I don't want to sound too mean here, but it's not that hard. It's not like writing a 300-page novel, let's say. So it's an odd situation. He never, I mean, even if he goes into crowdfunding, just with his name, he's still going to get a decent amount.
The last thing I'll mention before we head out is, you remember that other post he made where he was talking about, I feel for the retailers. Oh my God! If you feel bad for the retailers, then why are you getting mad at Mark Millar for going out and talking to the retailers? He literally said, "I feel for the retailers," and the CG guys or whatever he was trying to name has some good points, and it's like, so he'll admit some bullshit, backtrack it, then admit the other opposition is right. He'll ask for examples. Guy gave like 10 of them, not good enough. And I just don't think there is a world you can fix this stuff if people are this stupid. They literally are basically trying to always talk in broad generalities. Then when they're proven wrong, they just like start reverting back into some sort of like hole, like a rat coming out of a New York sewer. That's what Mark Waid is, a rat that lives in New York City in the sewer, actually. What an absolute dumb idiot. Guys, if things are going to ever get better, admitting you made mistakes or the industry made mistakes is how you get better. And the last thing I'll say before I let you go so we can head out the video, I know you got to go, which is these people have to talk this way. They have to lick Marvel and DC's boots, because if anyone from them see them talking about Comicsgate having good points, they're about to get out of there. And is that really an environment you want to work with? Is that an environment you want to work with where if you don't believe everything they say, you're out? Is that really a workplace you want to be a part of in your life? Just saying. The last you, man, before we head out of this video, which is anything else you want to say about Mark Waid, the comic industry? Floor is yours.
I want the comic book industry to continue. and to grow, but it's not going to happen with what we have and what we see right now. That's where we're at. And people like Mark Waid are the problem. They're not the part of the solution. And the people like Mark Millar, they are part of the solution. That's what everybody in the industry needs to sit down and start thinking about.
Yeah, and the fact that a comic book shop owner went out there and just said his honest opinion and got scrutinized as hard as he was just goes to show you what a horrible state this industry is in. And that someone else was canceled from his peers because he just did the god honest worst thing on this planet. Didn't touch a girl, didn't do any of that nasty shit some of these people have probably did in their lives. He wouldn't have had a conversation with him to see his point of view. How terrible of Mark Miller to do that. Like, what kind of industry is this?
It's an industry that's not going to stick around. That's what it is.
Hey, and based off this new Warner Brothers Paramount merger that might end up happening, I don't know
And
what's
the
going to happen.
rumors we're hearing from the likes of Yellow Flash. Yeah.
So
it's going down,
Mark Waid,
kids.
Mark Waid, I think you should rethink about your alt-right perspective. Oh, guys, Mark Waid doesn't know what alt-right means. What these guys mean by that is anyone who disagrees with me is a Nazi sympathizer, Hitler, blah, 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 blah. Anyone who disagrees with them is that. They don't really know what that word means. I doubt they do. These guys live in their fucking basements drawing comic book characters. You think these guys are knowing what alt-right is? Like, come on. You know? But remember, guys, can't highlight issues. Got to talk about broad generalities all the time. Oh, this doesn't work here. And no, comic books are selling better than ever. Yeah, it's not ours. That's manga. That's the Japanese. They're selling better. We're not. We're actually doing pretty bad. They're doing great. It's that same Shaq meme of like, I'm rich, you're not.
Yep, precisely.
But if you guys want to check out Mr. Professor Hayteen's YouTube channel, leave it linked in the description box below. And yeah, industry is burning to the ground, and I absolutely just love to see it. Because the only way things can get better now is it's such a systemic issue with them. It has to just be burnt to the ground at this point. You can't fix any of this, honestly. And hopefully that day will come sooner than later. But I'm MSK, Master Swag King, and I'm signing out, guys. See you guys later.